I just finished watching season 2 of Fresh off the boat, and today I wanted to go through it if there's anything that I liked, anything that I disliked. It's a little bit more difficult to make a review for a sitcom, but we're going to do our best over here. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Guys, like I said, there's a little bit, we're going to have a little bit of trouble here going through each and every point, because we have episodes like right when the season started off, we have the trip to Gator World. There's not too much to mention besides I can say something along the lines of, hey, it was pretty funny when Jessica was just trying to constantly get value for her trip no matter what. Throughout the first little bit, the only thing that was really to note was Nicole is still in the season, but then she kind of disappeared as time went on. I thought it was cool to see her again because, of course, we have the entire saga with Eddie being in love with her, but the problem with that is Eddie also now has a girlfriend, so maybe that's kind of why they fizzled Nicole out of the show. I thought Nicole was funny, but of course, I do like Eddie's girlfriend a little bit better than I like Nicole being in the show. I don't understand why we couldn't have both of them in the show, especially when she first showed up. We started having like the fun dialogue between the two with them becoming friends. Allison kind of figuring out that that Eddie also had a crush on Nicole. All those kinds of things. Other than that, though, I wish that we could have seen her a little bit more often. She had to stay back, and she ended up protecting the kids from bullies. And to be honest with you, that one I didn't love too much. We're getting a little bit... We are not getting in unrealistic territory whatsoever. That is not a thing. But then we move on to something that we have a little bit more to talk about. The episode with Shaquille O'Neal becoming the actual, like, or you know that he had the car business, and then him actually, like, showing up at the end when Eddie wasn't around was hilarious. I loved the entire thing. And you know what's funny, guys? I just love Jessica's character in general. She cracks me up as I'm watching this show. And I wish I could tell you guys I don't know the actor names, but honestly, the two parents are really what shines the show for me. And I don't really know who the main character of the show is. Is it Eddie or is it Lewis? Or is it Lewis and Jessica? Eddie, Lewis, and Jessica? I really don't know. But regardless, Jessica and her, like, obsession with, like, just being proper and doing the right thing and being better than everybody else, I find watching all of that very, very fascinating. That's probably the shining part of the show for me. So what we dive into, and this is where Jessica ends up because she doesn't want to be a realtor. She can't be a realtor. I don't remember exactly what it was, but instead she started flipping houses and selling them. The episode with her just warming up to the grandma just to get a little bit of inheritance was pretty cool. But then they ended up building a little bit of a relationship from it, which was really nice to see. And then the grandma only had like $7,000. And the comedy, they do it really well. And I always think about this too. When the show does like flashbacks or like imagination things, like we were talking about, like, hey, when do you get an inheritance? What are you talking about? Who died and gave you money, but it wasn't a lot? She's like, oh, this guy I've been seeing. And then they cut back to like all of these different scenarios. And there are other times where it's just like Eddie flying or something. I always want to know how much film time and budget they take up doing that, because it's like, sometimes it's like for 5 seconds and it's like the set they create is so extravagant. I just find it personally really funny. After that, we follow 2 episodes, one being with Lewis hyping up all of the boys because they get to go to their first dance, or the ballroom dance, whatever they called it. This is where Eddie gets the jitters. He backs out. He ends up showing up. I like also watching Lewis want to live the American way. He's like, I get to experience a dance or a fall ball. Oh my God, I watched this American movie and now I need to experience it. I find that funny. And something that I said in my review for season 1 was I have trouble, and I don't want this to, like, I know how this can sound. I'm sorry. I don't know what it's like for any Chinese family to come over to America. And I'm in Canada, but we have pretty well the same way of life as Americans. We just... There's a few key differences there, but for the most part, it's the same. I don't know what it's like for a Chinese family to come over here and just like, I don't know. Do they not have balls over there? Like, that's where I'm a little bit confused watching the show. So I don't know if this show's over-exaggerated. I know Lewis is over-exaggerated, okay? But I mean, I don't know if the adjustment to the family, like, oh, that's weird. Oh, this is weird. Oh, that's cool. Like, I don't know if that's fabricated or not. That's the problem that I have watching the show. Other than that, probably one of the shining episodes was when Jessica was fighting with those kids to egg her house. I liked that as well. I liked that Nicole came in and saved the day again. It was fun when she actually showed up. That was the way to actually ruin some boys, having some teenage girls end up humiliating them. Always works, without a doubt. We talk about this on the other channels too, because there's a lot of situations where that go trending, where it's like, you'll see some girl online freaking out about the toxic people in voice chat. And I'm like, oh my God, you're a girl. All you have to do is just humiliate the guy. And it's very easy to do so as a girl, which is... And it ended up working, but I liked, even had some character building with Jessica and the entire house, everybody just getting ready for Halloween, her finding the I guess you could say Halloween spirit. There was another episode down the road that I also really liked, and it was the one where Lewis ended up going on, was it Good Morning Orlando? Something along those lines. Anyways, it was just a morning, like, news comedy show, and Lewis just didn't went on there to do impressions. It's just the actor that cracks me up, and he's just goofy. The people were loving it. Jessica freaked out, so he was on there and going serious, like, oh, so you think it's okay to laugh at me now? And then, of course, making everybody uncomfortable, and then all of a sudden they weren't funny. And then Jessica had a problem with that too, so he had to go back and actually kind of be himself a little bit. On top of that, I can't remember if it was in the same episode or not, when Eddie and his friends started getting girlfriends, that's where the show peaked a little bit. Because, first of all, I want to talk about Allison for a second. Eddie has the most chill girl in the entirety of the world. I'm convinced of that. She's the most chill character ever. She's the most chill girlfriend ever. So much to the point where it's completely unrealistic. And all of the boys actually not knowing who they were dating actually made for some really, really fun episodes as well. I loved them trying to figure out all the time. I loved them going like to their mall date. They didn't really get it. And the date to the mall. And it brings me like, sometimes the show brings me back just a little bit because those things like that used to happen. You know what's crazy is kids nowadays might not experience like those random mall dates, and the date would literally just be like, oh, hey guys, we're meeting up for like 5 minutes maybe. We wouldn't like have an escalator date where you just cross each other, right? But you would meet up with a girl at the mall, like a group of friends for like 5 minutes or whatever. And I'm talking like grade 4-ish, grade 5, grade 6, somewhere along those lines. And as time's gone on, kids have been more and more screwed up with social media, and kids are growing up too fast. We don't have the childs anymore, and now it's quite depressing. Now, there wasn't too much to note in between that up until the episode with Santa and Jessica wanting everything to be a lesson, and all of a sudden Santa's Chinese. And I loved just the bouncing around jokes no matter what Jessica did, no matter what Santa did, no matter what Emery was asking about, or I don't remember what kid was asking about it, but hey, what about this about Santa? Yeah, Santa is he's actually Chinese. Why does he wear the color red? You know, and I loved all of it. It's like, these are all people just working for Santa. The actual Santa's Chinese. And then she ended up becoming Santa, and now she made her own children believe that Santa's actually a woman. She came to visit them specifically, and you just have to be careful, and you can tell nobody the secret. That actually might have been my favorite episode out of it, but we'll continue. We also have the episode with the Janet Jackson concert and Eddie trying to win tickets over the phone. And I gotta say, man, his friend scummed him so hard with that. He's like, I'm going to win the tickets. We're going to go on a date with Allison. And just because he called, he set this up and was trying to help his friend Eddie. And just because of that, he wants to come along. It all ended up working out for them in general. But I'm like, Eddie, how could you possibly be friends with this guy? And I changed my mind because I have the list of episodes over here and briefly what happened with them on my other monitor. So excuse me if I've been looking over there. This one might have been my favorite, is where they ended up getting the family computer. The first thing that they saw is a negative review for the restaurant. Or I don't even know if it was negative. It just wasn't perfect. Maybe it was like, I don't remember what he called it, but regardless, it ended up being the other kid, Philip. And Jessica tried bullying him a little bit, tried just like accommodating to him a little bit, and nothing else mattered. And they started spreading internet rumors that the kid, they got dragged to the school. And that one was my favorite. That one was my favorite. And they got found out in the end, but amazing episode in that one. I actually love Philip so much. He's hilarious. But after that, we actually move on to the episode that I was talking about earlier with Eddie worrying about Allison and Nicole actually becoming friends. After worrying so much, after doing all of this stuff to make sure that they don't see each other, it all ended up being okay because I think Allison like just straight up mentioned, it's like, oh, it's okay. It's like when you guys used to have a crush on Nicole. And again, chillest girl in the entire world. Realistically, it's not fair to judge your partner on who they had a crush on unless the person they were crushing on is, concerning. Then you can worry about their mental state a little bit. But other than that, nothing was wrong. But Eddie did end up having a situation where he was freaking out and being mean to his friend because Allison was crushing on his friend. It was just a whole thing. Loved the episode. There was actually some character development in there. There was actually some life lessons for Eddie and a ton of hilarious moments with that. The other episode about the chili was really good too. Eddie ended up making some chili, and I don't think we figured out how, but he made some chili better than his dad. Other than that, throughout that same episode, we have the funny episode where Evan was going to a birthday party, but Jessica ended up freaking out about somebody because she can't just sit still. She can't just, okay, I'm going to move on with my day. She starts knocking on the window of the car, insulting the person. All of a sudden, doesn't get invited to the birthday party. After some back and forth, trying to be nice, and this is where Jessica makes me laugh because she would be so insufferable to like be around, but when she's on TV, she's funny, where she's like, I just wanted to say that there were wrongdoings on both sides and I forgive you. And that was like her way of apologizing, which she's not wrong, but like, you just, for your kids, just accept it, suck it up, go to the birthday party. But then we learned that the actual reason that nobody wanted Evan at the party is because Evan took the bossiness from Jessica. It was just like, why are you doing like that? No, 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 take that down and start again. Hilarious. And Jessica comes home. The actor for Jessica is fantastic. Where do you think he learns this? What could it possibly be? You should have seen the way he was behaving. We have a few episodes about that. One with the neighborhood drama. That one was okay. Everybody was scheming each other. They made it like a reference to something that I didn't really understand. We had a whole thing at the bank where Evan was trying to figure out his name. He was opening a bank account. And I thought actually that was a good explanation because it would explain why we have Lewis, Jessica, Evan, Eddie, and Emery. And if they're making like everything but their Chinese culture, obviously those aren't Chinese names. I mean, it's possible. It's just like, it would make sense. And now I'm wondering if this actually is a thing where anybody, if any person from overseas decides to come here, do they consider changing their name? I don't know if this is my ignorance speaking, but I actually don't know. And I would imagine that this is something that actually takes place. It just wouldn't be as comedic as they made it out to be. The other episode that was in around this area was the episode of the lice outbreak. Loved that. I loved everybody catching lice. I loved the basketball game with Eddie, and he got all hyped up after the basketball game, threw his clothes or something like that. Everybody running away from it, and the teacher didn't believe him, but he showed up to school with lice anyways. That was all great. Loved the scrubbing. Loved people catching lice. It was really funny too. And actually, I think the last few episodes of this season were the ones that really shined because you have the entire episode where I can't remember her name, but the chick from Drake and Josh, she kind of played the same character, ended up being residents or tenants in Jessica's new house with Honey. Jessica ended up forking money from her own pocket because she needs to be the best at everything. They were giving her trouble. It was very funny. The other episode was at the graduation dinner, and in combination with that, it was time for Eddie to actually introduce Allison to her parents. Lewis already met her, but Jessica wanted to have a Chinese girlfriend, and this random Chinese girl shows up at the door, and you could see, and they pan Jessica's crying because, sorry, I don't know if it was coming through the mic there. My dog started crying because she was having a bad dream, but regardless. So Jessica was happy. She's bonding with the Chinese girl, and then we find out that this new Eddie's girlfriend, the mom actually hates her and isn't until another graduation dinner where he goes, hey, Allison, this is actually Allison. It's the girlfriend. And everything that they had to do to dodge Jessica not having her son have I don't know if it was a white girl problem or if it was a non-Chinese problem. I believe it was a non-Chinese problem, but regardless, loved all of that. I also loved the Jessica's Fun Side episode. We had some actual beautiful character development in that as well. I like they do a good job with the serious moments when they actually do that, but most of the episodes are kind of like, it's a sitcom, right? That's why I have such a problem making these types of reviews, because what am I supposed to break down? Like, Jessica went with the kids on a school trip. There's nothing to break down about that. She had a good time. There was great character development because Eddie liked her fun side and she couldn't show that, but then Eddie had to realize why. It was all of that, which was really cool to see, but there's not a ton to break down there. And finally, we're left on a cliffhanger, which I actually haven't finished yet. Gene came to visit. The part with Jessica, again, Jessica kind of stealing the show. The whole thing with the $200 where Jessica gave him $200 because she owed him $200, but then Lewis reveals that Gene actually owed them thousands. That was all great in general. He was getting married. There was a hot tub incident. And for the hot tub incident, it's really weird. I don't know if this is just something the show made up or if this is actually something to do with Chinese culture. And it's my ignorance showing because I'm not educated in that department. Do you just be nice to your family and say like, no, 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 no. And like, there's a Chinese polite battle. I know they don't call it that, obviously, but I don't know if that thing exists. From my perspective, if my brother and I were being nice and going, no, you should go. No, you should go to America. No, you should go to America. At some point, I'd be like, okay, there's no problem with that. Other than that, Eddie is supposed to watch a particular show, and we didn't know what the show was at the point until we realized it was Chris Rock. Hilarious. I love that, and that's what they're supposed to talk about with Allison. So we're left on a cliffhanger right now. Lewis ended up going all the way to, what was it, Taiwan? And then he sees Gene again. Gene's played by that funny actor. I don't recall who the actor is, but most of the actors in the show are really good. So I don't know what's going to happen. They seemingly made up. They gave each other a hug. It looks like Lewis is going to be the best man at the wedding, but season 2, honestly, it was just as good as season 1. I'm enjoying the show, and I wish I could break it down a little bit more for you guys, but I think that's the best that we could do with a sitcom. I wanted to talk about either way. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Check out season 1 where I did a review on that. I would love to have you guys over there. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.